Hi everyone, welcome to Serger Thursday. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what's called a Chanel neckline, and they're great to use on t-shirts and really any kind of a knit, and it really makes for a nice finish. And it could be either a v-neck, scoop neck, t-shirt neck, whatever shape you want, asymmetrical, whatever, you know, if you want. If you're a fan of Judy Kessinger, she likes those ones really off center, which is good. And yes, I'm hot. I don't care how low that air conditioner is, it's never low enough. So anyway, let's get started. So anyway, what is the Chanel? It is it's finished, then a finished facing. It's turned under like that and it's finished, and you just see the raw edge, or not raw edge, the turn, and you always have to cut different facing doing that. Almost every t-shirt you buy has some version of Chanel, and it was originally, I guess, started by Coco Chanel from Paris, the finish, but started to come out because I don't think knits were around in my mother's and great-grandmother's day. Okay, so this is essentially a Chanel. Now this one, and this is when it's done cheaply, and this is, you have to use ribbing. You can use the same knit. You want to cut it in the direction of the stretch, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And what happens is what you sew your banding, or the Chanel, and you flip it over, and then you just top stitch it in. But the problem is when you buy a t-shirt, they're sewn like, and then they're flipped up, and then they take a cover stitch and seal it down. But this will twist and turn on you because there's nothing in there, and it can stretch out of shape very easily. But that's the cheap version of it. Now this is also a commercially made garment. This is an Izod, and this is done a full Chanel as well, but done properly, where the banding is sewn to the front, it's lifted up and around, and then top stitched back with a cover stitch. But that leaves the body edge of this fabric inside this collar edge, and that makes it stand up really nice and gives it a lot more body to it. The other thing that you find in commercial garments is all the shoulder seams are done with a serger. I will use a serger on a lot of parts of my knits, but not everything. And where I don't like it to be is on my shoulder seams. And the reason is no matter how careful you are, you can see a big ridge. I want those seams flat. Two places I like my seams flat. I like them in the body. I like my side seams, princess seams. I like them all pressed flat because you just get a straighter line. No matter how hard you try, if you press this, you're always going to see that ridge that comes along with that serger. So it's only stuff, sleep shirts and stuff that I don't care about, do I all the way through. The exception is sleeves. I do like my sleeves. Sometimes I will set them so that they're absolutely on my little pain in the neck. I've got to get this perfect move. I will sew it with a sewing machine, and then I go back afterwards and serge the edges, because that's going to press towards the sleeve anyway, and that helps give the sleeve cap a little bit more body to it. So usually the only thing that I leave fully overlocked is going to be my sleeves. Unless it's a hang around shirt, then I'll just lock everything because it's faster and it's got more stretch to it. Usually anything that is stitched in this direction, I want an overlock, because the body stretches the garment, and therefore an overlock stitch has give into it, where if you use a regular stitch from a sewing machine, that seam is going to pop. So, you know, stress places have it serged, which is another reason I like it serged on the sleeve. This is a stretch. This is a stretch point. you know, when you're moving this arm's eye all over the place. Okay, Denise says I'm stopping every few seconds, but I can't tell on my end. I pick up, that could be at the server end, but unusually today it's not on this end. Figure this internet mess out anyway. Okay, so what I do when you're constructing a garment, what you do is you cut it. I will serge my side seams, the edges of the shoulder seams. Then I sew my shoulder seams together. So here's one that's I just sewed it. I like to press it open, and I'll show you what I do when I press it open. Here's turn my iron on, and I will put it on steam. I want it on steam, and then I like to use one of these. This you can use a regular ham, but this is a sleeve ham, and I like it. Or you can use a press board. I like a sleeve ham with a knit because it's got this wool side on it. And then if you put the wool side on there, it's not going to stretch your fabric. So I put this on here, and I will just press it down with some steam. Let it cool off completely. Now, a lot of times people complain, especially with shoulder seams, is that when you're putting in the sleeve and the neckline, if you're sewing in this direction, it's going to want to do that, and it gets caught underneath. So, guess what my solution is? Okay? Ta-da! Glue. And I'm going to use a liquid one because it's just in my hand. You could use the other one too. But I'm just going to, here we go, just pull this back and just do a real, especially at the ends, where it's going to go into a sleeve or a neckline. Put it down. And this is a washable school glue that's in this container. And then you just press it down till it's dry. Turn the steam off. And that's not going to lift. It's now basted. But I think from the front, that gives you a perfectly beautiful flat seam, whether that be at a shoulder or a side seam. And I think that looks a darn sight better, because here's what happens when you press something like this. Put on steam. Looks nice and flat, but it's not. You are always going to see this ridge. See that ridge right there? It's not. This is virtually invisible. I can't even tell unless I see the disruption in the pattern. That's why a flat seam is always nicer. Now, if you are concerned that you have a wide shoulder or you're having long sleeves and you're going to feel that you're going to pop this seam, usually for a short sleeve this is not going to pop. But if you feel that's going to pop, what you want to do is sew in some clear elastic into it, or else just use some seam tape on here when you're sewing it, and that helps that from stretching. You don't want it to stretch. So, but that gives you a beautiful shoulder seam, and you can't even perceive, because I don't know if my shoulder seam rarely stays on my shoulder as I'm walking around. It either goes forward or it goes back or twists, or because I can't keep still. Okay. Now the other problem I have when you're selecting a knit for a t-shirt is a lot of times we're going to have to cut strips, and we'll talk about how you measure it and what you cut. I'm using Judy Kessinger's patterns, which are the Fitness Doctor, and in her book, where did I put her book? I thought I brought the book in here. Here it is. Here's the book. Let me go back out. Okay. Here's her book. It's backwards, but it's Design It Yourself Fit Nice workbook, and it takes her basic pattern and does all kinds of things with it. And she's got a new tip book. So I usually use her system to make most things I make. I use her patterns. And for the neckline, she always says to cut your neckline you're going to measure your neckline 1 inch less than a neckline, and I'll show you how you measure that neckline in a minute, by 3 inches. I like 2.5 inches. I think 3 inches, just a little more fabric than I need to use. And the problem is you want to use a good quality fabric, and I have a tendency not to, because A, this was on sale, and the other thing is that I liked it. And sometimes if it's difficult fabric, I'll get over that I don't like it because I've got enough experience to handle a difficult fabric. Now here's the problem. This is one cut up that I cut the strips and didn't dare touch them. This is the one I used. Look what happens. It does this every time, and this makes me crazy. Okay, if you have a fabric, it's best, if you're not a very experienced sewer, if you're at the store and you pull on the edges of the bolt and they curl up like this, leave that fabric there. And about 10 minutes after working with this, I was like, why didn't I just leave that fabric there? Because it's doing this. Now, what you can to eliminate this from happening is, before you even cut the strips, take ordinary spray starch. Okay? Spray it till it's damp. Press it dry so that gives it some body, and therefore then it's going to stay straight, because this is that same loopy piece that we had. And then what I did was I just simply wet them, and then I pressed them dry, and they are not as likely to go flipping and rolling on you, because I got really aggravated. And today's one of those days when it's hot, I'm aggravated no matter what, as I have already sewn my shoulders together. Okay, here's my neckline. So what you do is you take your garment and you fold it in half. So here's my shoulder seams right here. And there's my center back and the center front, and I just lay it out on a flat surface. Then you're going to take a tape measure. I don't like this one, it's too flimsy. I like this one, it's my favorite one. And you're going to stand up at the very edge. You're not going to come in, you're not going to go flat, but you're just going to stand this up right on the edge. And you're going to measure this right at the edge. Because that pattern may come with a regular neck, jewel neck, but you might want to change that to a, okay, so this is, I scooted it, I wasn't watching. It is 12.5, so that means the whole neckline is 25 inches. Okay, so you are going to cut your neckline to your ribbing or the neckline finish 25. It's 25 inches is what it measured, so I'm going to cut it 1 inch less. So I'm going to cut this at 24 inches. So I think I've already done that. Let me just double check. Okay, it's 24.5 because I must have stretched some of it when I was pressing it. But I'm going to cut it, and this happens to be, so I measured 25, I want to cut 1 inch less, so that's 24. So let me cut, where's my rotary cutter? There it is. There. Okay, it's 24 inches, so it's 25 minus 1 inch. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine, put this right sides together, and sew this straight with a 1/2 inch seam. So let's go over to the machine. Okay, and I already tested, so that's what scraps are for. You're supposed to test your stitching every time. Okay, so over here I'm going to simply, and I like to sew my necklines with a sewing machine. If I'm going to use a serger, then I will use a chain stitch. Okay, and I'm just going to sew it a 1/2 inch in back tack. See how nice and quiet it is? I oiled it. It sounded like a Mack truck. And I'm going to press it open. Okay. And I I don't want this to irritate me in any way. So I am going to glue baste these fabrics down. Come on, I'm running out of glue in here. I just want to finish it up because I want to wash out this tip, and I haven't, because I haven't, it's been here a long time before I put new glue in it. Okay. And then I'll heat set that down. Okay. And I want to now take a pin, take a whole bunch of pins, and I want to divide this up on one end. You don't have to do them both. If I were doing it like the cheap t-shirt, I would put these together and sew them. But I'm not going to. I just want a single edge. If I wanted it really thick, I could. Okay, then I'm going to match my back seam to the front. So well pressed, I can hardly find the seam. And here. And actually, I like to also mark the eighths. To me, quarters is, I can't trust myself that those are just right. Okay, so I'm going to pin 1/8. So I will have a total of 8 pins in here. Or 7, because I usually don't put one at the center back. Right, and then here. Okay. Okay, so I have my, and then I'll put one, where's my center back? I think I better put one because I can hardly see it. So I'll put a pin here as well. Alrighty, we're going to take the garment that we just measured, and I'm going to do the same thing. I have a pin, add a pin, it's gone now, at the center front and the center back. Here's one at the center front, one at the center back. I am not going to care about these shoulder seams. Let me scoot back some so you can see this. I'm not going to care about these shoulder seams, because what I'm going to do, ow, just burn myself on the light bulb, is I'm going to put center front and back together. Here's my quarter here. This is just like we did the elastic on the pants. We're going to divide this into 8ths again. You can just mark it with a pen if you like, but I tend to, because I'm going to have to pin. I'm not like my mom. I'm not like Judy Kessinger, who can sort of like use 4 pins and be done with it. I can't do that. I'm a little more pain in the necky than that. Okay, and then I'm going to go in between again. Between the quarters, measure it, find the 8ths. One. Okay, and here's another. You have to be careful. You don't want to stretch. It's almost at the shoulder seam, but not quite. Okay. We'll get one between here and here. Oop. To the other side, I think we've got one more to do. One more. Match those 2 pins side by side, and there's my 8th. Okay. That's all of them. Okay, so now I want to find my center back. which is right here. Now, after I've sewn these shoulders together, I'm going to try this on to make sure that neckline is looking where I want it to, because this is your chance to change it before you cut your ribbing. Now is the time to change it. If it's too high, you can cut it away. Usually when I'm cutting out a blouse, I'll make that neckline too high until I try it on. And that way you can see if those shoulders are sitting right in the right place, if the necklines are in the back and the front are in the right place. Make the adjustments, measure the neckline, cut out your ribbing, and sew it. So, now where is my ribbing piece? Alrighty, I'm going to start with my center. Where did the center back go? I've lost it. Here's my center back right here. Okay? So I'm going to start there with the seam. And I'm going to put it right sides together and pin it. And I will thread pin it when it's a knit, because these pins tend to fall out. Then I will go to the next eighth and just match up the pins and pin it. Whoop. Took both out. And again, I'll thread them in so I have it going through two. That way that pin won't fall out. If you're really not feeling comfortable, you can stretch and go in between and put an extra pin in here if you want to. Okay, and go to the next place. And again, you're handling this rather delicately because this is a very stretchy fabric. And I don't want it to roll on me. So I'm being very kind to it. I tend to put that, rather than putting the pen away, I just sort of stretch it to match it, and then pin it in. I'd rather have too many pins than not enough. Okay, match the next pin. And come in, go back, and that in. Left out. Alrighty. Then we're going to go to the sewing machine. Okay, so it doesn't matter what side you sew with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch the neckline so that everything's nice and straight. I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam. I'm using my guide here. And I'm just going to sew a straight stitch. Okay, and then you just make sure everything is nice and straight. Make sure that I'm only working from pin to pin. I'm not worried about the whole neckline, just what I can get from pin to pin. Make sure they're nice and straight. Now this fabric I think was part rayon, part spandex in it. So it's going to be more comfortable. I don't like to use the full polyesters for night things at night. I swear polyester brings on hot flashes. And a little bit more. And back tap. Okay. Alrighty, now what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the iron, and I'm going to press this. Let's see, do I want to use the ironing? I'll use this thing here. I usually like to use either my small press board or the ironing board in order to press this up. So I'm going to press this. Move it to the right side and give it a press. Okay, and then I'm going to roll this back. Okay. Now, what I like to do here is I will press it all the way around. I'm not going to do the whole thing right now, but yeah, well, it's 7:30. I think we're okay. I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to cheat and do it this way and press from behind. Press these up. I get a little tuck there. I'm not going to finish this one because I need to take that out. That's going to bother me. I don't want that pleat there, but I'll get the back part. We'll do the back part of it, and then off camera I'll come back and fix that, because that's a no-no. That's going to show, and of course you know that's right in the front. Okay, press these up. It's easier on an ironing board than it is on this little sleeve hand. Press everything up. If you have any of these little dog-eary things sticking out, cut them out. Okay. See how it looks ripple until I press it and pressed flat again? And it tends to ripple whenever you have something going on with this. That's going to bother me. Okay, I got to fix it. That's making me crazy. So I can. Yeah, all gone. Okay, I'm happy again. Okay, so. And I'll work on this one little bit at a time, because while it's on the back, it's on the front side. You know, the wrong side is down. Okay. This stuff again. I will glue. Actually, this is actually easier to use the regular glue stick. Let's see if I have one in the drawer. Yep, I do. This might work better than the liquid. The liquid takes a little longer to dry. Okay, and then you just fold this down over top and press it into place. And see, it's basted. That's exactly what I want to see happen. Okay, so this is pressed, and on a regular hammer, on a sleeve, on the regular pressing surface, like a little ironing board. This might be dried out. Okay, this is dried out. Let me throw that one away. Okay, we have to use this then, because I don't have another one in the drawer. Just a few dots. Carefully press this right at the edge. So you get a nice smooth curve, and press it down. It's nice and basted. If you want to, you can further pin this from the other side just to keep that from rolling back on itself, if you really need to. I'm just pressing it this side, because the next thing we're going to do is cover stitch this down. Okay, come over here to just move it a little bit to the next section. Again, This is pressed flat. A few dots. And if it's not pressed exactly right, you can pull it up. You can pull that out. But look how nice and how that looks on the front. See how nice and even that is? That looks really pretty. Okay, and then over here, onto this side. Working in a small area. Sometimes you have to stretch it because that last little bit's being obnoxious. There we go. Okay, we're now ready to go to the serger. And see it from the front because we're going to actually sew from the front. Look at how nice it looks so far, and we haven't even sewn it. Before I sew it, I want to make sure I got everything nice and even. That could go a little more in, so I might pull that in. I'll pull this one out a little bit. That might be just a little too far. If it is, I can fix that little bit as I come to it. Okay, let's go to this cover stitch. I'm going to set up my machine for a narrow cover stitch. You could use a wide if you like, but I prefer to use a narrow. Well, set the light on that. Can everybody see that okay? Tracy wants to know if I use cotton or polyester thread. It's whatever I have that matches. I will use polyester and cotton thread interchangeably. Right now what I have in here is a mixed bunch, mostly because it's the only light gray that I have, and one quilting thread, Coates & Clark's Dual Duty, and cotton quilting thread. So I have polyester quilting. So I don't care. As long as the colors match, that's the important thing to me. With garment construction, it doesn't really matter to me. Now, if I'm sewing a seam, I like my seam with the thinnest thread I can get a hold of, because when you have thin thread in your seam, what happens is all your seams lay flatter. If you have thicker thread in the seams, they don't lay so flat. So the thickness and the thinness of the thread is more important. Okay, and I've got this set. I've set it for regular cover stitch, a narrow cover stitch. And I just want to check my stitching. What I am looking for is I'm making sure that everything is even, that it's not bunchy in the middle, it's not, what do they call this, not tunneling the front. That could be, if it's tunneling, you've got too much tension on the looper side. Okay, so I'm going to start in the back, if I can. Where is my back? A lot of times when I have a jewel neck, when I'm putting it on, I can't tell the front from the back. And that gets to be a problem when I'm wearing it. Okay, I'll move that a little further away. I need a little more tabletop in order to support the weight of the garment. Okay, so when I start, I'm going to pull those threads back. And I'm going to cut them. Got extra thread there. Okay, and you'll see why in a minute. I like using, no, I don't want this foot. Where is my, and I don't want this foot either. I have the clear foot and I want my open toe foot. I don't want this foot. Come to think of it, I want the open toe. There we we go. I'm going to take one stitch. And I want to pull those threads through. Okay. Okay. I want these threads separate. I don't want them to stitch formed. Okay, and I went and lost my back seam again. There, there it is. Okay. Why I need the open toe is because I am going to start with this needle. I want to stitch in the ditch, in the seam. Okay? I want that in the ditch. Because I only want to see, look, so it looks like top stitching. I want to make sure this bottom part is nice and flat, and I'm just going to start to take a stitch. And I am watching, get it straight, that I am guiding, where I am looking is that this needle is going in the ditch. And that stitch length's a little short. Okay. If it tends to pull out, I will scoot it. And always check that your fabric is flat underneath. I got a ripple here. Pull that basting out and we'll straighten out that ripple. And go real slow. I can't go fast doing this. Okay, I'm coming up on where I started. I'll go a few inches more. Okay, I've come out, here's where I started. So I want to like clip all these threads away. Cut them out. Get them out of the way. There. Okay, you're going to overstitch where you started by about a ½ inch. Okay, that will lock in the beginning stitches till the end. Okay, one stitch, needle at its highest, raise the presser foot, pull on those threads, and work it out. And just hand walk it till you start to feel it free. Don't tug, you're going to pull stitches out. And you'll find the sweet spot. When you find that sweet spot, just grab your threads. Don't hold it by the garment and then cut. Then you're going to come over here and pull all the needle threads to the back. You should have 3 threads in the hand. Then you're going to knot them. Just grab 2 against 1. And nice and tight. I'll do 3. There. And you can weave this in or just clip it. I'm just going to clip it. Okay. Then I'll give it another press. Now I don't like this mess, but that's okay because you're going to take your scissors. Let me scoot away. And you're going to just simply trim this excess off. Careful not to catch your garment. I have done that before. In fact, these are the scissors that I like to use the best when I'm doing this because they're blunt nose and they won't accidentally grab the shirt, or at least the front. And then you trim it away from the outside. Give everything a nice press and it gives you a beautiful t-shirt neckline. These need sharpening. Well, that's enough. I'll do the rest of this later. But see how that looks nice? Right there, you have, looks like a top stitch on the edge, and in the ditch you only see one line of stitching. And then once you press it, this is going to look really nice. Let me just hold it up. And there's my neckline. The neckline is going to lay flat once I press it. And everything's going to look great. See how nice it's going to look on the neckline? See how that doesn't poke out and it doesn't roll under? It's rolling a little bit because I have too much extra fabric here, but I'm going to take it all out. But it looks really nice. So the next thing on construction is I'm going to sew in my sleeves, do the side seams. And the sleeves, I'm just going to do this on the serger. When I'm going to use just a 4-thread serge. And then you just hem it with a flat lock and it's done. So anyway, you guys have a great evening and I'll see you guys. Bye. Love you all.